Hello, my name is Mark Lehman. I'm an outpatient family therapist from West Hartford. I'm one of three partners at Family Resource Development Center, serving the needs of children and families in the greater Hartford area. Today, I'm here to talk a little bit about the new series called 13 Reasons Why. 13 Reasons Why was released on Netflix just a few weeks ago based on a book in 2007. It certainly has been the talk of the town for both adults as well as teenagers since being released. I must put a warning out there. Due to the graphic nature of this series, individuals with histories of depression, suicidal ideations, or behaviors should think twice before viewing this series. The series is essentially about Hannah, the main character, and how she's been greatly negatively affected by many different things that have been said and done to her within her peer group at school. And unfortunately, toward the end of the series, Hannah takes her own life. To me, this series has brought up a number of different really important issues. Those issues that are really hard, I think, for most people to talk about. Things like teen angst and mental health, bullying, and certainly suicide. The power of social interaction and the importance of the words that we use and how we say them and who we say them to and the tone is also really highlighted throughout this series. It's very, very important, especially in the adolescent population, that kids are really aware of who they're saying things to and how they're saying them, and really how they're being received. Because certainly social interaction can really drive up things like depression and anxiety in a very high way. To me, all teens can be vulnerable throughout their development. I think that's a very natural part of adolescent development. And when teens go through periods where they're much more vulnerable, unfortunately, if at that same time things are said to them, the pileup is that much greater. So it becomes really, really important for us as adults, as well as other teenagers, to just be aware of that and know that teenagers may be feeling very vulnerable, even though they're not communicating that to us. The characters in this series really allow us into their worlds in a very deep way, which is, to me, very different from most teenagers. Most teenagers will walk around with somewhat of a facade on and not necessarily overtly letting us know how they're feeling, when they could be hiding feelings of anxiety and depression and just a lot of angst that they're carrying around throughout their days, weeks, and months. And they just get used to hiding that. Within this series, we're able to see from a number of different perspectives how things that have happened have really greatly affected these teenagers, and how those effects are carried around with them really wherever they go. One really good example of this is how social media was brought into this series. What seemed to be a pretty innocent first kiss and exchange between Hannah early on in this series turned into a picture thrown out on social media and really instantly blasted out to her entire school, which was misinterpreted and flipped around and created, I think, a great deal of anxiety, probably the first part of anxiety for her within this series that must have been very, very difficult for her to endure as that character. Those types of things happen on a regular basis, unfortunately, in school systems, and kids aren't necessarily bringing that information to us as adults, but it's really important for us as parents that are around kids to be aware that social media can be used in this regard. And the unfortunate side to it is that it isn't just one instant notion of something happened and people laughed about it. It is something that is saved and something that is looked at over and over again and blasted out to a large population of people. So the shame factor and the anxiety piece is that much larger as a result of social media. This series really brought some light to that and really showed how that had a dramatic impact on this particular character. My advice to parents is to make sure you're talking to your teens about real stuff. When I say real stuff, it's really easy to get into the pattern of asking your teenager, "How was your day?" And they'll answer, "Good," and that's pretty much all the conversation you have. What's new? Nothing. And, you can't really dig, or you don't dig past that to get to any real information. To me, the other really wonderful part about this series is that so many kids are watching this series and so interested in it and talking about it amongst each other, it gives us parents an opportunity to not only view the series, but it gives us a talking point option with kids to really ask them a little bit about what they thought. And did they have certain feelings towards characters? For example, were they hating some of the characters? Did they in fact feel bad for some? Did they feel some confusion, or did they actually relate to some of the characters? Because those are all things that will evoke responses with kids. Certainly ones that have recently viewed this series and seems to be a real topical conversation. This series evoked a very different response, I think, amongst individuals within the community. Certainly it has shed some light for us that in some homes what teenagers are dealing with, and perhaps really what they're not dealing with. It really has shown us what teenagers go through, sometimes on a regular basis. I've had kids come in over the last few weeks talking a little bit about what they see within their school systems that's similar to the series. Things like negative, hateful conversations scrolled on bathroom walls, indicating things about certain people, specific people. Certainly kids talking about one another within the hallways and in very demeaning ways, and cruel things have been said. And whether or not you're that individual who's received that information, or you've been in the hallways and you've just simply heard someone say that, it certainly affects teenagers. And those are things that kids have come into my office recently talking about, because those are things that are said and done in most school systems throughout the day. So this series has clearly shown us how anxiety and depression, and unfortunately even suicide, is something that does happen within the adolescent population. And really it puts a little bit more of a challenge on us as parents and adults to be connected and to be having those conversations, to be able to help kids not let those stressors pile up and get out of control. So my simple advice to parents would be: talk to your kids, ask questions, be connected to them, recognize that within the teenage population and this generation, things have changed so dramatically that they can really teach us and help us understand what it's like to be a teen. But it really requires that conversation and starting off as a parent, pushing yourselves to have those conversations and stay connected. Thank you.